primal strength.
Thanks once again for joining me. This is Bill Mack here with another edition of Pro Wrestling Unleashed. This is for the Raw recap for July 24, 2017. Thanks you for joining me for this video, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or whatever platform you're watching it on. This is the road to SummerSlam. This is in my opinion, a good Raw. As we get into it, let's just dive right into it and see what happens. We have a good start off to Raw as we see Kurt Angle with all three other guys in the ring. We have Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, and Samoa Joe. They all give their reasons why they should be the one facing Brock. Kurt Angle makes his decision after a bunch of squabbling between the three that there's going to be a fatal four-way matchup. So whoever wins in the matchup in this fatal four-way will be the Universal Champion. Brock doesn't have to be pinned to lose. So I think that's a pretty reasonable thing. We see the rest of the three going at it. So good start off to Raw. We have a no DQ matchup between Finn Balor and Elias Sampson, as we saw last week. Elias did put some deep cuts into Finn Balor's head with the botched guitar shot that Elias hit him with last week. This was a good matchup, a no DQ matchup. Finn basically controlled at the onset of the matchup, even working to the outside. We come back, we see Elias basically get turned the tide on Finn. Finn he re-injures his shoulder, and that's the body part that Elias works on throughout the whole matchup on the shoulder. And we see that basically Finn is ready to come back and get the win over Elias when out of nowhere the lights go out. Bray appears in the ring with Finn Balor locked into Sister Abigail. He hits it, which prompts Elias Sampson to come, make the cover, and get the win. So it looks like we're going to see this feud leading into SummerSlam between Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor. We see Emma coming into the back as Kurt Angle is being interviewed and asked about how he feels about being Jason Jordan's son, dad, and how he feels about watching his first matchup. And Angle's very happy, and he's not too pleased after Emma interrupted him. So she says, "What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to get attention around here? Oh, I know what I do. Maybe I should date Jason Jordan." So then this makes Angle upset, and he says, "You'll have a match tonight with Nia Jax," which wipes that grin off of Emma's face, and as would anybody who has to face Nia Jax. Enzo is talking to Big Show in the back. Enzo talks to Show about how he feels he's going to show everybody that it was a mistake for Cass to turn his back on Enzo. We see the Big Show showing some bit of concern as Enzo walks out. We see Enzo take on Cass, and this is basically a squash match. Big boot, Empire elbow, all these things is squash. He beats down Enzo after the matchup, which prompts the Big Show to come out. And then Cass ends up getting the best of the Big Show. He ends up hitting the big boot. He ends up hitting 4 Empire elbows on the Big Show, leaving the Big Show laying in the middle of the ring. Cass elevates his hand, so it looks like we're seeing maybe this soon enough this feud coming to an end between Enzo and Cass. Alexa Bliss is being interviewed in the back, and she's asked who she'd rather see, and Alexa says, "It doesn't matter to me who is going to be my opponent. All I'm here tonight is to see the friendship between Bayley and Sasha Banks ruined." Will that happen? It could possibly happen. We come back to a match. This is between Nia Jax and Emma. And I know Emma regrets doing this now, as we see this match is nothing more than a squash match. Emma had very little to no offense against Nia, and Nia used her size and power to take advantage of Emma, and we see Nia hit a flip onto Emma for the win. Your basic squash match is what this match was. We see Tozawa, and remember, he was supposed to have a rematch tonight. Titus comes in and says, "Do your shoulder not feeling up to where it needs to be? I've got your rematch canceled." This angers Tozawa as he goes out to the ring. He calls out Daivari, which leads Neville to come out. Neville berates Tozawa and tells him about how he's the reason why Tozawa's hurt. and all. This prompts Tozawa to get upset. Tozawa ends up basically he swantons on to Neville, which still you see it hurts his shoulder a little bit. Daivari comes out, takes out Neville, takes out Tozawa. He stands over, pointing at both guys as he stands over them. Bailey and Sasha are backstage, and they're talking about their matchup, and they're talking about about how both of them were look forward to facing Alexa. And Bailey warned Sasha. She said, "Don't overlook this matchup because I'm just as much want to be Raw Women's Champion as you do." And then they say, "Well, the best woman will definitely win and walk out." And Sasha said, "I agree," and she walks out. So is this a potential end of their friendship for so long? Remains to be seen. We basically see Jason Jordan get interviewed, and they asking him about how he feels about Kurt Angle being his dad and about his first Raw debut matchup being a singles competitor. And he says that, he looked up to Kurt Angle, he was a hero, and to find out he was dad made it all more special. He says that he is focused and determined that he was going to win his debuting Raw singles matchup against Kurt Hawkins in the night. Then we go to a backstage segment with Seth and Dean. They're talking about The Miz and The Miztourage. Seth is letting Dean know, hey, we need to worry about these three guys tonight, against them three against us two. Then we see him, Dean say, look, I'm getting upset. He says, I'm basically having to watch out for 4 tonight, not 3. So, which leads us to kind of see that Dean is still worried about Seth, even though Seth said last week and tried to say, look, I'm sorry, let's put it behind us, let's go forward. And remember, folks, it's been 3 years since this situation between Seth breaking up the Shield happened. So Dean still isn't willing to forgive him just yet. So we see up next, we see Bailey versus Sasha. And remember, the winner goes against Alexa Bliss, SummerSlam for the Raw Women's Championship. Sasha Banks controls the early parts of the matchup. It's going back and forth. We see a very physical match between the two. A lot of hits and punches and kicks. I mean, you could tell they really gave it their all, trying to give their all in this matchup. But the ending comes down to where Sasha's on the top rope. She hits a splash, but Bailey rolls through it, gets the roll-up pin. 1, 2, 3. Bailey goes on to SummerSlam to take on Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's Championship. Let's just hope this feud's better than it was the last time between Bailey and Alexa. We've seen that debacle with the kendo on a stick match and Extreme Rules. Really wasn't really a feud at all. We see Kurt Hawkins. He's being interviewed, and they're asking how he feels about Jason Jordan. He said, look, I'm tired of talking about Jason Jordan. He said, I'm here. I want to ruin his debut. I want to ruin his matchup. And then people are then going to be talking about me when they talk from now on. So we see Kurt's just not interested in anything about Jason Jordan. He just wants to ruin his matchup and his debut match against him, which leads them into the matchup between Jason Jordan and Hawkins. Jason Hawkins got some offense in the beginning. It looked like to be in control briefly, but he was no match for Jason Jordan. Jason Jordan showed his athleticism and is even pulling his straps down like Kurt Angle at a point. Jason Jordan closes out Kurt Hawkins with a back suplex into a neck breaker. That's going to be his finisher. Don't know the name of it yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I do. The Revival go into talking in the ring and talking about how they're the best tag team. They've sent a New Day pack into SmackDown. They've beat down the Hardys. They're the best tag team, which that prompts Gallows and Anderson come out. And he said, look, we did all that stuff you said first. So this leads them to a matchup. The Revival basically do a lot of good tag team work, tagging in and out between the two. They take Gallows off his feet for a big man. You know that's important. And the ending comes to where Anderson ends up getting the shattered machine hit on him from the Revival. which prompts the Hardys to come out. Hardys come into the ring. Do we see the Poetry of Motion get hit? We see the Twist of Fate. And before Jeff can hit the Swanton on the Wilder, he's pulled out of the ring by Dawson, excuse me. Or I think it might have been Dawson that got the that got hit or got pulled out. But one of them got pulled out, and so this looks like there may be a feud between the Revival and the Hardys now. Remains to be seen as SummerSlam comes up, and we'll hopefully know more next week about it. Which brings us to the main event. We've got Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose taking on The Miz and The Miztourage. And there was a lot of going back and forth in the beginning of this matchup between Seth and Dean. They were tagging in and out, not just tagging, but like Dean would tag himself in, Seth would tag himself in. So still not on the same page from that point of view. But we did see at one point Seth gets worked over by The Miz and The Miztourage in the corner. They cut the ring off in half and not allow Seth to get to Dean. But once he does get to Dean, Dean clears out the house. We see The Miz at one point, you know, the Miz is he's just a funny character. I just think he is. But he did a lot of talking in this matchup. We see both Dean and Seth work together, however, also in this matchup, as they both do a double suicide dive off through the ropes onto The Miztourage. So while we get back in the ring, we see Dean get in, and we see Miz coming out of nowhere. He hits the skull-crushing finale. He goes for the pin. Seth hits him with the knee. Dean Ambrose hits the Dirty Deeds. 1, 2, 3. You have your winners, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Seth is in the ring. He extends his fist out like they did back in the Shield days, but Dean doesn't bite for it. He doesn't reach out for it. He looks at him and like he contemplates, but then he leaves the ring. He starts walking up the ramp and celebrating with the fans. And while Seth still has his fist extended, he still isn't ready to trust Seth just yet. So it remains to be seen if SummerSlam happens. What happens between these two? Do they form that bond again, or do they become enemies? It just remains to be seen. But I hope you folks have enjoyed the video. If you do, like this video, comment on it in the comments section below. And if share this video, and if you're not subscribe to it. And I will definitely do all I can to bring you more videos. So this is Bill Mack once again for Pro Wrestling Unleashed saying, take it easy.